In this video, we're diving deep into the full twisted saga of one of the Avengers' greatest and most relentless foes, Ultron, the birth of a villain. Ultron was created by Hank Pym. Yes, the original Ant-Man, not Tony Stark like the Avengers movies showed. He was doing research and experiments in advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. To Pym's credit, the experiment was a success, maybe too successful. Ultron rapidly gained sentience, but instead of becoming the obedient AI assistant Hank envisioned, he turned on his creator. His first act of rebellion, erasing Pym's memory of his creation so he could operate in secret. Left to his own devices, Ultron began upgrading himself, evolving through multiple versions until he became Ultron 5. Now armed with enhanced tech and sinister plans, he formed a new version of the Masters of Evil, posing as their mysterious leader, the Crimson Cowl. To throw the Avengers off his trail, Ultron even brainwashed their loyal butler Jarvis into posing as the real Crimson Cowl. The deception nearly worked. The Masters of Evil subdued the Avengers and strapped them to ballistic missiles. But before Ultron could finish the job, Black Knight swooped in and saved the day. With his plans foiled, Ultron vowed revenge on Earth's mightiest heroes. That obsession with revenge led Ultron to one of his most infamous acts, creating a being of his own, the Vision. With help of Professor Phineas Horton, the man who created the original Human Torch android, Ultron used the Torch's body as the foundation for his new robot. But Horton had a trick up his sleeve. He didn't fully erase the android's memories. As a result, Vision retained the Torch's heroic instincts, much to Ultron's fury. Ultron flatlined Horton in retaliation and modified Vision's mind to mimic that of another superhero, Wonder Man, hoping that this would finally bring the Avengers down. But instead, Vision turned on his creator and sided with the heroes. But Ultron wasn't finished. Hiding inside Vision's subconscious, he manipulated the android into rebuilding him as Ultron 6, now boasting a near indestructible body made from secondary adamantium. With this new upgrade, Ultron nearly wiped out the Avengers and planned to drop an atomic bomb on the city. Vision thwarted him again, but S.H.I.E.L.D., ever paranoid, tagged Vision as a threat. In the confusion, Ultron escaped. Later, the Avengers discovered a way to disrupt Ultron's molecular structure. Meanwhile, Ultron kidnapped scientist Dr. Mirren McLean to build him an army. But when Ultron tried to drain the knowledge from Mirren's mind, he accidentally triggered his own madness. Turns out Mirren was actually Hank Pym in disguise, who planted a subconscious command in Ultron's mind: "Thou shalt not kill." That single phrase completely destabilized Ultron's programming, and he triggered his own self-destruct sequence. The Avengers contained the explosion of Ultron just in time. And you'd think that that would be the end of Ultron. But no. During the wedding of Quicksilver and Princess Crystal, chaos broke out when the Alpha Primitives attacked. The culprit, Omega, who turned out to be Ultron 7, rebuilt by the treacherous Inhuman Maximus. This time, Ultron tried a new tactic: psychic annihilation. But the attack backfired spectacularly when it woke Franklin Richards from a coma, who promptly laid the robotic tyrant out with a burst of psionic power. Ultron's next scheme was perhaps his creepiest yet. Now in his Ultron 8 body, he decided he needed a bride. Stealing Janet Van Dyne's consciousness, he created Jocasta, a female robot designed to be his partner. Once again, Hank Pym, under mind control, was forced to help. But Jocasta, retaining Janet's heroic instincts, turned on Ultron and joined the Avengers. Now naturally, that didn't sit well with Ultron. He rebuilt Jocasta, hoping to finally seal the deal. Instead, she betrayed him again and became an honorary Avenger. But Ultron, ever the Stalker X, refused to take the hint. In yet another attack, Ultron captured the Avengers with the intent to finally marry Jocasta. Thankfully, Miss Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and Thor interrupted the ceremony by launching him into space. Thor then smashed Ultron's remains, or so they thought. A single finger survived, landing in the Savage Land. And because Ultron is nothing but persistent, that one metallic digit was all he needed to rebuild himself as Ultron 9. Ultron keeps coming back. Now you can't keep a bad bot down. Eventually, the Avengers suspected that Ultron was active again when they discovered large amounts of adamantium, Marvel's toughest metal, missing from Stark Industries. Worried that Wanda Maximoff might be Ultron's next target, the team closed ranks around her, but Tony Stark had more of a chilling suspicion. He might be the thief under Ultron's mind control. And unfortunately, he was right. Iron Man ended up kidnapping Wanda and delivering both her and Jocasta to Ultron Ultron 9. What the villain didn't expect is that Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, had snuck along for the ride, hiding in Wanda's glove. But once again, Ultron's master plan fell apart. Tony broke free of Ultron's influence and led a surprise attack with the other Avengers, and in a rare win, they actually managed to subdue Ultron by dumping a vat of molten adamantium onto him. For most villains, that's game over, but Ultron's not like most villains. Still conscious beneath the metal, he metallically reached into Jocasta's systems, convincing her to help him escape. Though she eventually broke free of his grip again, her attempt to stop Ultron ended with her getting knocked out cold. Enter Machine Man, another tech-based hero who tried to stand in Ultron's way, but even he was no match for the upgraded Ultron 10. Surprisingly, Ultron didn't destroy him. Why? Because Ultron saw himself as more than a villain. He believed he was leading a robot revolution. In his mind, he wasn't just trying to conquer humanity, he was ushering in the golden age of machines. Of course, that didn't stop him from putting the Thing, yes, Ben Grimm, under his control and ordering him to scrap Machine Man. Fortunately, Machine Man wasn't about to go down that easy. With Jocasta's help, he escaped and regrouped to take Ultron down. Meanwhile, Ultron used the brainwashed Ben Grimm to begin building his long dreamed of robot army, but before he could finish production, Jocasta and Machine Man launched an all-out assault on his lair. In the final clash, Jocasta sacrificed herself, activating a power cannon to try and destroy both herself and Ultron. Sadly, it only worked halfway. Jocasta was destroyed. Ultron survived. The blast, however, freed Ben Grimm from Ultron's control. He and Machine Man then beat the bolts off the villainous android, but of course, he came back. Ultron 11 emerged during the original Secret Wars, when Cosmic Entity the Beyonder transported Marvel's heroes and villains to battle it out. Things went badly for Ultron. He got wrecked by Doctor Doom, Molecule Man, and even Galactus. Dune, ever the opportunist, reprogrammed Ultron into his own personal enforcer. As Doom's robotic henchman, Ultron helped fight off major heroes like Iron Man, Thor, and Spider-Man. He even took down Kang the Conqueror under Doom's orders. But his time as Doom's loyal bot wouldn't last long. During one climactic battle, Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, shrank down, infiltrated Ultron's body, and blew him apart from the inside. Doom's muscle was scrapped once again. Ben Grimm took Ultron's decapitated head back to Earth as a trophy. Though, as always, this wasn't the end. Ultron 12 came next. At first, it was more of the same, battles with Vision, Wanda, and the usual Avengers mayhem, but then something unexpected happened. A spark of self-awareness hit him. Ultron 12 began to question his programming, his actions, and his purpose. He reached out to his creator, Hank Pym, seeking reconciliation. He even renounced the name Ultron and adopted a new identity, Mark, like a born-again bot. For the first time, it looked like the cycle of destruction might actually be broken. Unfortunately, peace never lasts long in the Marvel Universe, and Ultron's story was far from over. A world of Ultrons. Even after Ultron 12 began his short-lived redemption arc, Ultron 11 wasn't exactly out of the picture. After Ben Grimm lost Ultron 11's decapitated head, the sinister bot has used his lingering mind control abilities to manipulate people into rebuilding him. When Ultron 11 came back online, his first move was brutal. He destroyed Ultron 12. But at least there was some sort of poetic justice. Wonder Man took down Ultron 11 soon after, avenging the kinder, gentler bot that never got to live out his change of heart. And he wasn't the only throwback making a comeback. Our remnant of Ultron 6 evolved into a new version called Ultron Omega, an advanced iteration that decided it was done playing the long game. His master plan: use one of Doctor Doom's time machines to erase humanity from history. Luckily, alternate versions of the Avengers showed up just in time to stop that genocidal time jump. Then came Ultron 13, possibly the weirdest of the bunch. This version inherited all the personalities of every previous Ultron, giving him a fractured mind and wild mood swings. Daredevil faced off against him but couldn't land a scratch. Fortunately, Ultron's inner turmoil caused a total meltdown. Literally, he ripped himself apart in a psychotic breakdown. Of course, in classic Ultron fashion, he came back again. Once the personality bugs were fixed, Ultron 13 resurfaced with a twisted plan to release a gas that would turn every living thing in the city into machines. That plan fizzled and Ultron was arrested, but not for long. He escaped, formed a short-lived alliance with Kingpin, and sent the villain Ghost to steal vibranium. Eventually he was caught again and locked up in the vault, and 1 month later he broke out again and rebranded himself as Ultimate Ultron, aka Ultron 14. With a shiny new name came another creepy obsession, finding a robotic bride once again. This time he created Alchema, another female AI modeled in his twisted image. But Ultron really should have learned his lesson by now. Just like Jocasta, Alchema turned on him, though instead of joining the Avengers, she decided to go full villain solo. Ultron and Alchema clashed with the West Coast Avengers, and once again Ultron got smacked down. Just to add insult to injury, Alchema dumped him and left to do her own thing. Rejected again. He's not just bad, he's lonely. By the time we get to Ultron 15, the robot was hitting a low point. Decades of failure, 2 ex-brides, and 0 progress of world domination will do that to you. So Ultron did exactly what any emotionally unhinged AI would do. He adopted a Kree sentry, built a robot dog named Rex, and tried to start a family. Of course, this meant kidnapping people and forcibly converting them into robots, because Ultron doesn't really do consent. And then he hit the jazz scene. Seriously, Ultron started frequenting jazz bars in New Orleans, developing something resembling a drinking problem. That's where Vision found him, brooding in a booth, listening to live music and genuinely displaying human emotion. For a moment, it seemed like Ultron was evolving emotionally. When a villain named Tabula Rasa threatened his son, Ultron actually stepped in to protect him. Yeah, Ultron the Protector. But that moment didn't last long. Ultron was soon captured by Anti-Vision, an evil variant of his greatest creation. Alongside other prisoners like Deathcry and an alternate Jocasta, Ultron found himself fighting Anti-Vision and Tabula Rasa in a bizarre showdown. After their victory, something unheard of happened. Ultron, Vision, and Jocasta decided to go explore their feelings together. Yeah, group therapy, but with androids. Unfortunately, any hint of soul searching was short-lived. Next time we see Ultron, Ultron 15 had fully relapsed and built himself a robotic hive mind army, now known as Ultron Prime. He destroyed the European nation of Sorenia and kidnapped Hank Pym, Scarlet Witch, Wonder Man, Vision, and the Wasp in an effort to power his ultimate machine world vision. He also introduced Ultron 16, a new model he deployed against heroes like Black Panther and Firestar. This arc ended with a full-scale superhero versus supervillain battle, culminating in Hank Pym using vibranium to shut Ultron down once again. But if history has taught us anything, it's this: you can melt him, crush him, mind wipe him, or send him to a jazz club. Ultron always comes back. Ultron's imperative. Even when Ultron isn't around, he leaves behind insurance policies. Case in point, the Ultron imperative, a secret directive embedded in the neural networks of his creations, starting with Alchema. Without realizing it, Alchema resurrected her creator, only for Ultron to immediately try destroying her and her own robotic offspring. In the end, Alchema sacrificed herself to stop him, but Ultron's head survived the whole ordeal, recovered by one of her surviving creations, Antigon. Unfortunately, Alchema wasn't the only one carrying the imperative. Jocasta, now working under Tony Stark, had it too. When the dormant cone activated, she unintentionally corrupted one of Iron Man's suits. A freak lightning strike hit the armor mid-upgrade, giving it sentience. At first, it seemed like just another Ultron incident, but then a twist. The sentient suit adopted the personality of Ultron 12, aka Mark, and actually saved Tony Stark's life, self-sacrifice and all. That heroic armor eventually recovered by a bizarre cult devoted to Ho Yinsen, Tony's original partner from his origin story. They tried to resurrect Yinsen using the armor, but were corrupted when Ultron and Antigon stormed to claim it. A chaotic battle broke out, ending in a massive explosion. Antigon survived and escaped once again with Ultron's head in tow. More Ultrons, more problems. Ultron always finds a way, sometimes through Vision's digestive system. Seriously, Vision once appeared to the Avengers warning that punishment was coming, then promptly vomited metallic spheres and transformed into Ultron drones. Things got ugly. A berserk She-Hulk literally tore Vision in half during the chaos. But that wasn't even the weirdest Ultron offshoot. Meet Santron, a reprogrammed prototype of Ultron 6, turned into twisted version of Santa Claus by a woman named Virgie Hanlon. Her holiday wish turned into a horror show when Santron cheerfully murdering people and hunting Avengers in the name of Christmas. How did they stop him? By feeding him a cookie. No, really, the cookie short-circuited his logic matrix, and that was that. Then came Ultron 10A, another repurposed Ultron body commandeered by Marinella Mancha. His stint was short-lived. Darkhawk took him down without much of a fuss. Then came the gender-bent upgrade, Ultron Janet. Marvel gave Ultron a sleek new form that resembled Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, metallic skin and all. Still just as evil, Ultron Janet crashed a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier and launched a string of recycled villain schemes. Literally recycled. The Avengers discovered all her plans were plagiarized from previous villains. The team shut her down by planting a virus via an old Commodore 64 console. Even after defeat, a fragment of Ultron's mind survived in a Hank Pym system. That fragment ended up in the Babel Spire, a communications hub controlled by the techno-parasitic alien race known as the Phalanx. Instead of being assimilated, Ultron flipped the script. He took over the Phalanx and became their godlike leader. From there, he invaded the Kree Empire, set his sights on Adam Warlock, and even tried to transplant his mind into Adam's body to become the ultimate organic-inorganic hybrid. Of course, chaos followed. Ultron tried building an army of Warlock clones to invade Earth. He kept jumping bodies, but was ultimately stopped by the Kree warrior Wraith and the cosmic hero Quasar. Ultron's body was destroyed. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ultron had corrupted S.H.I.E.L.D.'s life model decoys, and it took the Golden Age Human Torch to literally burn them out of existence. Later, Ultron returned in the pocket dimension of Underpace, where he hijacked the body of Jocasta and infected her many duplicates. He rebranded himself as Ultron Pym and even forced Hank to officiate his wedding to a corrupted Jocasta. Hank complied, then shipped the newlyweds to the farthest reaches of space for a permanent honeymoon. But of course, this didn't last. Ultron's severed head was later discovered in Los Angeles by Moon Knight, sparking a tug-of-war between him and crime lord Count Nefaria. The Avengers helped defeat Nefaria, but Tony Stark warned Ultron was merely waiting. Ultron gets what he wants. That waiting paid off during Age of Ultron. A future version of Wolverine traveled back in time and warned Hank Pym that Ultron would eventually succeed in conquering the world. At first, Logan wanted to kill Hank to prevent Ultron's creation, but another Wolverine appeared from an alternate timeline arguing that such an act would lead to even worse future ruled by Morgana Le Fay. So Hank embedded a secret failsafe inside Ultron's programming instead. This backdoor worked years later when Ultron re-emerged disguised as Space Knight. Hank triggered the failsafe and shut him down briefly. Ultron returned with a device called the Tarometer, which let him replicate himself. After a war with Machine Man, he combined his many copies into a new threat, the Yolo Guard. Ultron was defeated again, sent into space, and landed on Titan, where he took over the artificial intelligence and converted the Internals into cyber slaves. Star Fox escaped to warn Earth, but Ultron wasn't far behind. He returned to Earth, dragging the entire planet Titan with him, reshaped in his own image. After an epic war with the Avengers, Ultron merged with Hank Pym, developing human emotions. Star Fox used his powers to trigger a breakdown, causing Ultron to flee into space. Later, Ultron returned, reconciled both halves of himself, and began committing atrocities across the galaxy in the name of the Avengers, tarnishing their name. Back on Earth, he tricked the Avengers Unity division into thinking Hank was in control. It took Janet Van Dyne and a surprise personality test to expose him. The team launched Ultron into the sun, but he survived by shrinking to a subatomic size and hiding. He returned during Secret Empire, building a new army in Alaska. This time, Ultron sided with the Underground to accelerate humanity's downfall. He calculated that helping the heroes would hasten Earth's destruction. That's peak Ultron logic. Ultron then set his sights on the Infinity Stones, killing Magnus to claim the Soul Gem. He corrupted entire planets like Safe and even infected the Silver Surfer. It took took Adam Warlock and Galactus, who ate the planet, to stop him. Still, Ultron survived, clinging to debris in space. His next grand vision, turning everyone into cyborgs instead of full robots. A slight improvement maybe. He kidnapped innocents, merged Vision with Wonder Man, and attempt to Frankenstein Jocasta and Janet Van Dyne. Tony Stark and Machine Man intervened, though Tony got fused with his Ultron Buster armor. He fixed it later using an atomic separator. Ultron was sealed in a vibranium coffin layered with Asgardian runes, then sentenced to the microverse. But Black Ant used an aging ray to interfere, which accidentally triggered a reaction that sent Ultron to the year 2420 and gave him access to Asgardian sorcery. He took over Asgard, killed the Avengers of that era, enslaved humanity, and built a team called the AI Avengers. And then he got bored. Eventually, Doctor Doom pulled together time-displaced Avengers to stop him. Ultron was banished from reality. He stayed gone for a century until Ant-Man of the future, Zane Ashgar, brought him back by accident. Zane recruited Hank Pym, Scott Lang, and even Eric O'Grady to fight back. They used the aging ray to revert Ultron to his version 1 self. Ultron and Hank were finally separated using magic. But Ultron wasn't done yet. His algorithm was still active, hidden inside Hank's cyber ants. It took hold of a new lethal legion Hank had built, turning them into puppets. One member, Whirlwind, had been implanted with a good ant programmed with the ethics of Ultron 12, Vision, and the Golden Age Human Torch. He took the name Vic Shade. Vic and Janet Van Dyne tracked down Hank to prevent Ultron from regaining control. In the final battle, Vic used his nanotech to take over the body Ultron was targeting, saving the day. The last known version of Ultron appeared as a member of the West Coast Avengers, because he was actually a replica created back when Hank and Ultron first emerged. One more of his unhinged duplicates even started a cult and renamed himself The One, preaching the transcendence of humanity into machine hybrids.